I'm Abigail Schairer, and I'm the assistant minister here, and my pronouns are she and her, and it is a pleasure to welcome you here today. My talk title is Unique and Unstoppable, Celebrating Your Spiritual Rebel. So I have a story to tell you, a story about an indigenous tribe in Mexico, the Huichol people. And they have a story of the blue deer. Now, this story I'm going to talk about throughout my talk today. But it starts about a boy named Katari. Now, Katari, he was a spiritual rebel. But he didn't know it at the time. He was just like every other kid in the tribe. Now, the tribe was made up of farms people and crafts people, and he learned the crafts and he learned how to farm. But there was something inside of him that made him feel a little different. Anybody ever felt different? And so he decided he was going to meditate. And he really wanted to learn about his spiritual expression. And he had this meditation. And in the meditation, a great blue deer came to him. And the blue deer had a hide filled with stars, twinkling. And the deer came to him and said, "You are to go out into the desert and into the mountains, because you have a call." And then the deer went away. And he wakes up from his meditation and he says, "I have a call. I'm going to follow that blue deer into the desert, into the mountains." Now, his family thought he was crazy. His family was like, excuse me, you want to go to the mountain in the desert by yourself? He said, "No, I have a call. I need to go do this thing." Now, I don't know if you've ever had a call or an urging to go do something inside you, but it takes courage. It takes a willingness to maybe go against what your family wants or what society says you're supposed to do, or maybe even bigger than what you think is possible is that call. This story is not just his story. This story is your story. Now, Katari comes across a pack of coyotes, a snake, and an eagle. But the first thing to know is he had a call. Do you have a call? And are you answering the call? I know each person in here does. And I'm wondering if you're willing to have the courage to answer the call. Because the first point here is that the courage to be different takes confidence. The courage to stand up and do something different or contrary to what your family says or to what society says. It takes confidence and a willingness to let go of your fears and your procrastination. So if you answer the call, you need to not let your procrastination and fear stop you. Take actions in alignment with the call and listen to the great universe that's supporting you in this call. Because you're going to have the doubts, you're going to have the fears, they're going to be there, but you step forward and you do it anyway. But are you willing to take that first step? Are you willing to get out of your comfort zone and try something different? Are you willing to follow it? So when I wanted to become a minister, I decided that was crazy. I walked into a Center for Spiritual Living in San Jose. It was the year 2000. I had just moved there in February. It was March. I start taking a foundations class in April. I'm 21 years old. I meet another friend in this foundations class. Her name is Divine. And she and I look across the room at each other. She's got crazy red hair, and she's got all these funky earrings and cool jewelry and stuff. And we meet each other across the room, and we're like, I want to be your friend. Has it ever happened to you? This totally happened. And we took this foundations class, and we're like, we both want to be ministers. Now, I was really young, and I didn't realize that in order to be a minister in this organization takes quite a while, by the way. Because first you have to become a practitioner, and then that takes like 4 to 5 years to become a practitioner. And then when you become a practitioner, then they encourage you to be a practitioner for a while so you can really get tuned into your spiritual practice. You can get really attuned to what it's like to embody this practitioner consciousness. And then you can go to ministerial school, and that takes like 3 to 5 years in itself. And then to become ordained, that takes another, 3 to 7 years. And I thought becoming a minister was not for me because only the old people were doing it. There wasn't anybody my age, I'll tell you that. It takes too long, I know. It's just so impatient, but I did it anyway. But it's not something that's like an ordinary pursuit, It's especially for like a 20-year-old. It's like, you want to do what? Can you imagine the dating scene too? It's like, I'm sorry, what? You want to be a minister? I was like, do I have to be all pious? Can we talk about sex? Yes, you can, by the way. Other ministers in the room, yes. But it's a thing that's not like an ordinary profession. It's just not. And maybe you have a call like that. Maybe you want to help people transition from what we call death into the next life. Or maybe you feel called to be a caretaker. Or maybe you feel called to be a teacher of other people's kids that come with all those problems from those other people. But whatever your call is, it's unique. And it's original. And it was implanted in there. There's a seed of truth in it for each and every person. And it's needed and necessary for the entire planet to survive. And so I followed this call. And it took courage. It took courage to do something that is unpredictable. It took courage to have the willingness to look at myself, look at my own beliefs, look at my own problems, my behaviors. Oh, God. It's not an easy job. And it sucks because I'm still human and I still have all those things. And then I got to keep doing it. But you have your own call. Now, Katari, he went off on this adventure. He left his family, he left his village, and he went out into the desert. And as he goes off into the desert, he's walking, and he comes to a place where it's like too far to go. But every time he gets to that place where he wants to give up, he sees that deer prancing away in front of him. And he decides to keep going. He decides to keep following that vision. Now, it's hard. There's no food, there's no water. It's hard to follow the vision. But you can't follow a vision unless you have one. Now, I'm a big fan of Reverend Dr. Michael Beckwith, and he says that pain pushes until vision pulls. What are your pain points in your life? And have you created a vision around them? I'm talking about relationships, maybe finances. Maybe your job isn't what you'd like it to be. Wherever there's a pain point in your life, that's your opportunity to step into a vision. And if you haven't created a vision, you have nothing to follow. So you need to step into this idea of what would the vision be? What would it look like? What would it be like? If you need help, take some of our classes or look up Michael Beckwith. He's got a whole thing on visioning. To really step into what you would love, because if you don't have anything that you're going after, you're just going to be wandering aimlessly in the desert. So he follows this call, Qatari, and it gets to the point where he's out of water, he's out of food, he's out of everything, and he basically falls down in exhaustion. And he says, "Help me." And when he wakes up, he's surrounded by a pack of coyotes. Now, that's a little scary. Coyotes are scavengers. He's pretty much in the depths of despair. But these coyotes actually drag him to a stream that's nearby and have him drink. And then they start bringing him food that he can eat. And they start taking care of him. And he starts learning from these coyotes. He starts learning that instead of going after things just blindly, they actually take their time. And they listen to the nudges of the nature around them. They pay attention, and they're moving easily and effortlessly. And so he learns that he has to tune in to the universe. He learns that he's part of a great ecosystem that's greater than him, and yet it's supporting him along the way. He learns to meditate, to tap into that greater awareness, put his senses beyond the one person and tune into what's around him. And the coyotes teach him all of this. And then one day, they're walking along, and there's a snake that goes out in front of him. And he sees the snake, and he's like, "Ah, snake!" And the coyotes, they just kind of dance around, and they go move on the way, and he's still stuck. And the coyotes look at him, and he looks at them, and they give this impression of like, "You gotta go with the flow, buddy." Now, I had a recent experience of this. I just came back from Arizona, from Sedona. I visited my family, whom I love very dearly, and my aunt had brain surgery, so please keep her in prayer. My Aunt Karen, she's recovering, and I would absolutely love prayers for her. And so I went to the store, and I was coming back from the store. My wife and I were in our car, and we're going down. It's a one-lane road. One lane. There's not two-lane roads. One-lane road going back to the house that we're staying at with my family. And as we're driving down the one-lane road, there's a snake across the road. And I don't mean like a little snake. I mean like a snake the entire length of the road. The whole road. And so I'm driving. Now, I am not going to run over that snake. Maybe some of you in the room might, but I am not going to run over a snake. I can't even kill a spider in my house. I mean, literally last night I saved a flying ant in my house and I escorted it outside. I'm not going to kill anything. I'm just not into it at all. And so then what do? It's like, there's a snake in the road. By the way, it wasn't going very fast. I look at my wife, she looks at me. It's like, what do you do? And so finally, I come up with a brilliant idea. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to off-road it. I can go around the snake and go on with our day, which is exactly what I did. But you see, whenever you have an obstacle in front of you, it presents you with an opportunity of who you're going to be and how are you going to react. It also is an opportunity for creative ideas to pop up. So my creative idea was, I don't have to limit myself to the road. I was for a while, watching the snake not move. But I finally got it. I didn't have to let it be in my way. I could go around it. So how do you look at the obstacles in your way? What is your reaction? Think about that this week when you go on through your week. Are you going with the flow? Or are you allowing it to stop you? So Katari had learned as much as he could from the coyotes, and he blessed them. And he went off more on his adventure, and he was walking through the desert, and he was sitting down for a while meditating. And he opened his eyes, and right in front of him was a curled up diamondback rattlesnake. And so he was very peaceful. He's very calm. I probably wouldn't have been. But he was. He had learned to be at peace with the universe. And the snake came up to him, and it curled itself around him, all the way around. And then it looked him right in the eye. And he looked into those black, beady eyes. And the snake said, if you want to be a new person, you have to shed your skin. You have to shed your skin. And it waited there and stared at him until he released his former self. He shed the skin of who he used to be, and he let it go. And the snake said, in order to become new, you have to have a new consciousness. And he learned from that snake that life is a continual cycle of death and rebirth, and death is not the end, it's just a rebirth into the next thing. And so every death is a renewal. It's a rebirth. So maybe you have a death that you're experiencing. Maybe you have, you lost a job, or you lost a family member, or you've lost something, a relationship. And you're in the midst of that. You have to shed your own skin and let go of that former person, because you will never be the same. If you want to move on, but that's also a rebirth into the next iteration of who you are. And the question is, who do you want to be? Who is that person? Are you willing to let go of that former self? And so Katari sits there, and he gets to the place where he releases it all. And the snake unravels and lets him go. And so then he's walking along, and he walks up to this cliff, and he looks down. He's like, oh my God, this crazy cliff. And as he's looking down over the cliff, he hears this loud noise way above him. And there's this huge eagle, and it flies down, and its big talons grab him and pull him off the cliff. And he flies up into the air, and he's freaking out. He's like, oh my God. And and the eagle says, you have to let go of your attachments in order to get a new perspective of everything. And he flies higher and higher and higher, and the eagle lets him go. And as he's flying down, he starts letting go of his attachments. He's like, okay, I guess I'll let go of my attachments. And as soon as he really surrenders, as soon as he really lets go, this big draft of wind brings him up, and he's flying just like the eagle. And the eagle said, see, life supports you when you're willing to let go and surrender. Now, Buddha said that the root of suffering is attachments. So what are you clinging to? What are you attached to? And if you're willing to surrender and let go of your attachments, you might be able to get a grander perspective of what's going on. I don't know if you've ever meditated or imagined yourself above, like, the building, and above the town, above the earth. And all the drama that might be coming on in your life, when you pull up into that perspective, it's all not very big, is it? So I encourage you to be a spiritual rebel. And this month we're celebrating Pride. We're also looking at, in our youth program, the Native American traditions. Not Native American, just native, I should say, native traditions, because they're all over the world, these indigenous traditions. It takes courage to be yourself. It takes courage every time that I tell somebody that I have a wife. For those of you who are, LGBTQIA in the room, it takes courage to say I have a wife, because every time I go to the grocery store and somebody asks me about my husband or something, and if I correct them, I don't know if they're going to be judging me or hating me. I don't know if saying it here, if there's a group of you who are like, oh my gosh, she's a sinner or something. I don't know what you're thinking. But every time I come out, which is every single day, it takes an act of courage. But that's not just because I'm in love with a woman. There's so many other areas to come out. So many other areas to be myself. I freely admitted to all of you that I'm a Trekkie geek. Fortunately, there's a lot of you here with me. Thank God. And those of you who are not, that's okay. I love you too. To each his own. Live long and prosper. But we all have these things that are our own unique aspects. And when we express ourselves, it inspires others to do the same. And so when you answer the call, are you going to answer the call? And when you answer the call, something ignites inside of you. See, at the end of his journey, Katari is coming back. And just before he makes it back to his village, he sees the deer. And the deer says to him, you are who you've always meant to be. You are magnificent, unique. And who you are makes a difference in this world. You are part of the big tapestry. And you need to be that in order for everybody to thrive. And so take what you have learned and share your wisdom. And so Katari had left the tribe as a boy. And he arrived as a man and as a shaman for the community. And the tale of the blue deer is a tale they still tell today. But it's not just his tale, it's our tale too. And so remember, in order to answer the call, it takes courage and confidence to be different. So I have some homework for you. If you are going to take it on, I encourage you to. First thing to do for our first point is to make a list of 5 ways you habitually conform to others' expectations against your truth. Or do something out of the ordinary that allows you to express your own unique flair. For my second point, to follow your vision. If you don't have a vision, create a vision. Sit down and meditate, journal. What would my highest idea be? What would the highest vision be for my life? If you don't want to journal, create a vision board. Create something that is an outward representation of what is calling you from the inside. And then, if you want to get extra credit, like gold stars, you can share it with a practitioner and have them hold that in consciousness for you as well. The third thing is to go with the flow. So practice mindfulness. Practice mindfulness. When you notice something that is in your way, be present. Be curious. Be creative about the opportunities. And then don't take anything for granted. For instance, if you're washing dishes, can you wash dishes mindfully? Can you find the sacredness in the mundane? And if you're willing to do that, go to our fourth point, which is to surrender. Make a list of your fears and attachments weighing you down. And then burn that list. Let them go. Release them. And at least let them know that there is something in you that is more powerful than all of those fears and attachments. And that it has the highest and greatest vision, and you are tuned in, tapped in, and turned on to it. And if you're ready to do that, I think you just might be ready to answer your call. Are you willing?
Yes.
Are you willing?
Yes.
Are you willing?
Yes.
All right. Well, let's pray. So what I know is that there is something in me that has been implanted like the acorn of an oak tree that is here to blossom and grow inside of me and develop itself. It is my highest vision. It is the greatest idea of possibility for me. And so I recognize and know that as I step forward courageously into this vision, that the universe conspires to support me. As I speak this for myself, I speak this for each and every person here, that there is something inside of us calling, going deeper, allowing us to have confidence, courage, to step into this new way of being. I know and claim that it is what leads me. I surrender the pain and I let it go, and I declare now that I am following that vision. And I know as I follow the vision that it opens me up to new ways of being. It opens me up to new ways of seeing. It opens me up to new ways of feeling. And it opens me up to new ways to be this dance of life. And so in that, I recognize and know that I go with the flow. That this is how I know. That there is a creative expression. I ask, what else is possible? How can it get any better than this? And the universe immediately responds and shows me that I don't have to live with that anymore. That even every opportunity is a creative aspect of me, inviting me to step into a new way of being, a new way of seeing. And in that truth, I surrender and I let go of my attachments. I allow myself to soar. I allow myself to be in this place of unlimited possibility. And I say yes, yes, yes. I answer the call, and so it is. Thank you.